The story begins when the main person become fired from his job. Liz's supervisor packed up all his things and advised him to go away. Their workplaces soon thought it changed into unfair due to the fact he changed into extreme approximately his task and he become fired because he failed to send a present to his boss. He decided to call his girlfriend to tell her the unhappy news, however she wouldn't listen to him and informed him they were breaking up. She informed him not to return to her birthday celebration and in no way call her again. Lin asked her if she found any other man. She stated so what if she did due to the fact she dated him a long term ago, however he hasn't changed a bit and remains the same loser. The main character became very dissatisfied due to the fact these days he become fired from his task and his girlfriend dumped him. Suddenly the elevator doors opened before him and he was met by way of a lovely lady. She greeted her new master and stated her name as Louis. She is a system girl in the system of all professions and now she is his servant. Manner instructed him that now he can strive out a new career each week at random and by completing all tasks he'll get the very best praise and she might help him end up international famous. Lin was fairly satisfied and was given a praise of 100,000 yuan for accepting the career of riding as well as 100 manage of the stocks of the peninsula. Hail in an Apagani zoned a car well worth 30 million. He said he was willing to work as a driver for lifestyles if all this live with him, but Manner said that this profession is given to him for per week not for life. Louisa claimed that that is even higher considering the fact that you can get so much cash and do different things every week. Wei informed him that the Bandao Inn needs that he drive up there in the Pagani zone. The automobile is in the parking lot of Rosie Younger Enterprise. Lin couldn't agree with that this turned into all happening to him. He came to the car parking zone of Zone C to pick up his supercar and since the parking lot of Quarter C changed into for extreme people he met the CEO there. Her name is Rosie Yen. She was standing by means of her car and couldn't apprehend why her car would not start. Lin approached her and requested what happened to her car. Rosie Yen recognized him as he worked within the income department. She advised him that she couldn't get her car to start. Lin provided her a ride. She agreed as she had to go to the construction agency but unluckily she become already overdue. Suddenly Lee came as much as her and said that this kind of small worker like Lin could not have a nice vehicle and presented her a ride in her sports activities car. However she pushed him away and informed him no longer to touch her, but Lee insisted and offered her a ride in his car which he bought for 20 million yuan. Lin spoke back to directly. He stated he could give the CEO a journey himself and his vehicle is worth 22. However Lee failed to believe him and stated his vehicle turned into very old, but Rosie Yen said she failed to care what situation Lin's car changed into in as lengthy because it became roadworthy. However at that second Lin went to his 30 million yuan car and stated it was his new car. Lee didn't trust him and asked if he knew how plenty it was well worth. Besides Lin took out the key to the car and advised Director Z to get inside the car. Lee exclaimed to him that he attempted to get a Pagani Zonda but he in no way succeed. He came as much as Lin and apologized for his words and asked to journey in his car. However Lin advised him to get out of right here and he became no longer worthy to sit in that car. Rosie asked him in reality his car. After all he became an ordinary employee in the sales branch. Lin said that he's truly from a wealthy family who lead a normal existence and given that he goes to grow to be a driver so she will be his first passenger. 10 minutes later Lin delivered her to the marked factors. He paid for her train and thanked him for his help. System congratulated him on completing his first order and offered him 50 ability points and for completing his career at 5 he received 50 million yuan. Resort Peninsula is a 5 big name lodge and one of the few great hotels in Zhonghai at the moment. Major person's ex-lady friend, her name is Lu Ruby. I was there. She had a brand new boyfriend. His name is Yanxia. They came here to have a Lydia D time her birthday there and he changed into now not sorry to spend 80,000 yuan for a separate room. She hugged him and wished she had met him in advance but he requested her. Wasn't it Lin who came into the resort? She questioned what a pauper like him was doing right here. She thought he came here to get her back but Lin spoke back her that he came right here to spend his money in this ordinary resort. However his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend stated that this isn't always and regular in people of Lin's reputation cannot even are available in here. At that moment Ruby informed the guards to kick the beggar outside. Unexpectedly the guards ran up to him and said they have been satisfied to look Mr. Lin. Ruby didn't understand how it become possible that Lin being a sales worker turned into capable of take a management position in this resort. The manager asked Lin to go to the meeting room as they needed to report to him. Ruby stood in a stupor as she found out that she missed out on a wealthy man. After a while the manager gave him the monetary record and asked to look the documentation but but Lin said he didn't want it and requested him to maintain operating at the identical pace as earlier. Then at the moment the lady ran into the workplace and became to Supervisor Wang. She stated that the client in room 1704 desires to complain about them and may by no means stop her. Wang requested her why she wanted to complain. She said that yesterday she applied to hire a car from their hotel, however the Mercedes she desired to hire became already taken by a VIP client, but she would not want every other car and so she desires to complain. Lin stated that he might solve the situation himself and advised them to do the documentation. He got here to room 1704 and added himself because the hotel manager, he said he changed into willing to set up everything well to preserve her glad, but Lydia stood there in shock and didn't understand where the handsome guy had come from. She confusedly spoke back that it wasn't that important anymore and they may simply arrange any other vehicle for her. Lin instructed her that if she did not thought she could take his Pagani. Lydia answered that she did not have enough cash to rent a car like that, plus she'd heard that such motors had been not that commonplace and wasn't positive it would be okay. Lin stated that he could deliver her a journey anywhere she wanted. Lydia turned into happy and asked him to watch for her as she desires to change. She offered to go into her room so he ought to wait for her. Lin saw her changing and was bowled over. After 10 minutes she placed on a stunning dress and said she become ready to move right now. In the not unusual hall told her new boyfriend to get away from her as in minutes Lin might come down and he would possibly think they had been relationship. Yoon was mad at her and referred to as her and said that once what she did to him he would not even take a look at her. A friend requested her if she thought that when she dumped Lin he would agree to date her again. Sis replied that she have been with him for decades and there had been truly feelings between them and if she pressed for pity he would definitely forgive her. At the moment Lin was taking walks at the side of the girl. SY saw this and ran to him and exclaimed, "Honey, who's she?" "Your secretary. If you need I'm able to now assist you with all of your commercial enterprise." Lin looked at her with disdain and asked her who is she besides SSI began to cry and said in the end these years does he not love her due to the fact despite the fact that his new girlfriend has a better frame than hers but her talents are not as top as hers. However the new lady friend asked her how could he recognized that her capabilities aren't as appropriate as hers because Lin had already praised her for that. She turned into higher than her ex-female friend. At that moment Lin hugged her and said that she became no longer best professional however also smooth. They started to go away but Ruby I exclaimed how ought to he try this to her on the grounds that they had been fanatics for years. Lin requested her what to love her for being a liar or for being ugly or perhaps for having a terrible determined. Ruby was very harmed to pay attention those phrases and she fell to her knees and started out to cry. Presently Lin and Lydia got into the car. He asked her in which she ought to be taken. Lydia stated she had to visit Rosie Chio in due to the fact her classmate changed into celebrating a marriage. She apologized to him for stressing him out. However Lin informed her that she had just helped him get rid of his ex-lady friend. At the moment her pal were expecting her close to the entrance. They didn't recognize why she become so late. They did not agree with her when she told them she had a brand new boyfriend and he gave her a Mercedes. Besides they'd wealthy boyfriends and failed to know anyone who took Lydia with them. At that second Lydia got out of the car and told Lin that it was his turn to assist her. He exclaimed to her, "Honey, have an amazing time at the marriage." At that moment her pals believed everything she said and began to envy her due to the fact their guys didn't have such an expensive car. A few hours later Jong took the smartphone from her mother and informed her that Lin had paid for those 10 days and she had not anything to fear about and requested her to wait some days and not rush. Lin Lon said what if you ran away and she should not rely on him too much. In any case she goes to come to be a civil servant and got involved with a person like Lin. Unexpectedly Lin entered the apartment and advised Theta that he become shifting out and so came in to say Lydia d bye and he would depart after he packed his things. She asked him unhappily did he really need to depart without paying the lease. Lin advised her that she misunderstood him and he might pay her the hire. He stressed her 4,000 yuan and she stated that he made a mistake about the price due to the fact the rent changed into 200 yuan but Lin said that it was as an apology for usually being late with the rent. She asked him what he was going to do next and what his plans had been. However he said it turned into nothing extreme and he could starve. Lon provided to help him carry his things going downstairs and he went alongside them to ensure Lin did not steal something. As they got here out of the driveway and he noticed a brand new vehicle and wondered who parked this beautiful vehicle. She requested Lin where he parked his vehicle. Lin said his old car broke down and he decided to shop for himself a brand new car. He requested Garden to position his stuff in the trunk. The aunt couldn't believe it due to the fact that Lin worked a everyday task. She asked him did he control to turn out to be so wealthy. He stated that everyone this he become pretending to be poor and actually He turned into from a wealthy-owned family at night. Lin lower back to his hotel. They organized a presidential suite for him and cooked an excellent meal. Rosie Yen texted him and said he might be free quickly and could he meet her at the main entrance of the development enterprise. He texted her that he would be there in half hour. Upon arriving on the place, Lin jokingly requested her if she should order first. She got within the vehicle and did not recognize what order she was speaking about. He answered that she must move into the app and make an order so that he could know wherein they ought to pass. Rosie G wondered because he had a 30 million greenback automobile and become imagined to be in a pinnacle income enterprise, but now he has been fired and it's miles comprehensible why he asks for an order, but she did now not recognize how this type of extreme person will be fired. Rosie G speculated that maybe something occurred and she or he just did no longer know approximately it, and she determined to find out approximately it. A little later, all of sudden Wei seemed informed him now not to worry due to the fact no person sees her. However, Wei stated that this girl is very lovely and prices for a 4+. She congratulated him on effectively getting his 2D order and beginning the system activity of transporting lovely girls with a 4+ rating. Wei awarded him 10,000 ability factors and a 50 of completion rate. He asked her which women are rated a 4+. She fortuitously answered that women like Shelby. Rosie G asked him once they might go and she or he said he looked like he had even greater critical troubles than she did. He asked if she had problems personal or work related. Rosie G replied that the corporation desired to do a launch presentation and she or he had known as all of the 5-star resorts, however none of them had been available because they had been all booked. Lin counseled she do the presentation at the Bandau Hotel. Rosie G asked no longer to make her chortle because the Bandau Lodge is a 5 megastar high-end lodge and reserving an area there is taken into consideration impossible. He said that isn't necessarily true and life is complete of surprises just as they met nowadays. Perhaps she will be able to get a surprise if she receives there. She laughed and stated that if this is the case then let him flip the car round and go to the Banda Inn. However, in case they can't make an arrangement with the lodge she cannot pay for this experience. Lin asked what happens if it works out. She asked him what he desired and go back if he won this guess. Lin advised her if she does make the deal he has to do 10 deep squats. Rosie G questioned what is that. He advised her to appearance at the net. Whilst she noticed it she told him that those exercises are a bit frank. Shelby had formerly called the Bandau Resort and the supervisor said that there are no greater locations, so she decided to accept without risking something and he or she agreed to the bet. After some time they arrived at the lodge and Rosie asked the receptionist to speak to Supervisor Wang. She offered to go to the lobby to talk to Jim. She concept is that this the new love that the boss met again pretending to be poor. They walked into the corridor and Rosie G requested the manager if there were any vacant seats within the auditorium of the Bandau Motel, considering the fact that she desires to make a presentation there. Lin quietly confirmed and K signal and a manager understood him. He replied that he should set up for her presentation any day she wanted. Rosie G changed into fairly satisfied and said she planned to make a presentation in 10 days. They got back within the car and he or she observed it hard that she had managed to e-book the auditorium. Lin advised her that now it was her time to fulfill her promised want. She replied that she might virtually keep her phrase due to the fact she was the president of Rosie Younger. He unbuckled his seat belt and Rosie G asked embarrassedly what turned into he doing. In the end they may be within the automobile and they could do it at domestic. Lin said they can do it in automobile too and all of it depends on whether or not are no longer director. Rosie G likes it here. She attempted to do it, however she turned into too tight and cautioned she do it at home. After 5 minutes they arrived at Yinshu and Rosie requested if she should begin doing squats right away. Lin said she ought to start because he still had activities. Rosie G stated she'd in no way performed it before, so she requested him now not to bitch if she failed to get it proper the first time. She tried hard to do the deep squats effectively. Lin turned into pleased with the way she did the squats and similarly she were given it right the first time. Abruptly her dad walked into their room and requested in wonder what are they doing here. She asked him what he became doing right here. Her dad requested her in which as he purported to be if now not in his house. Rosie G advised dad that he got it all wrong and this man is her new yoga instructor. He instructed her. Does she assume he doesn't apprehend something because yoga instructors do not watch from the out of doors but usually at the geared up? Rosie G tried to persuade him, however dad did not trust her and informed her to leave and he wished to speak to him. Dad sat down with Lin and requested what his call was and what he did. Lin said his call and said he become a cab driving force. Dad was puzzled due to the fact to get his daughter's attention the guy have to be driving at least a sports vehicle. Lin answered that he became right and he owned owned a sports vehicle. Dad asked him if he owned that constrained edition sports vehicle outside their house. He said that Lin is higher than the ones majors who simplest spend their parents' money, and became inclined to put his daughter in his palms, but Rosie G informed Dad that they did not have that sort of courting, and Dad replied grudgingly that he had absolutely stopped understanding younger human beings. Dad suggested they come together for Grandpa Rosie's 80th birthday, and that way the relaxation of the circle of relatives might get to realize Lin, and informed them that he changed into leaving and they might keep with what they were doing. Rosie G turned into very uncomfortable as her father misunderstood everything, but he put her on her back and stated it changed into even higher and advised they continue. Rosie G asked what to retain due to the fact her father misunderstood them. Lin said that once she squatted he saw her muscle tissue worrying. However, Rosie G requested now not to touch her muscle groups because they are very sensitive. Lin stated that turned into proper due to the fact this form of workout stresses that muscle institution. Rosie G thought he just intended that's I am the one who were given it wrong. Unexpectedly he were given a textual content pronouncing that after he was fired his colleagues had been very unhappy, so they recommended having a nighttime dinner at Yipping You as a farewell. Lin informed important Rosie G that he had a few enterprise and cautioned he meet subsequent time for the closing 9 squats. He arrived at the restaurant and a colleague advised him that she had specially made room for him. Wang Ying did not suppose he could cease because with his stage he may want to easily emerge as head of income. Jim rather informed her if she knew what she became, speaking approximately because he became as suitable as he turned into, and why did she assume that the sales function should her becoming. Lin Wang Ying stated that Lin has greater achievements than Jim and the director's position need to have long gone to him. Jim provided to drink to the truth that the appointment papers will quickly come due and stated not to achieve this despite the fact that he's going to soon end up director of sales. Today the main individual is Lin, and so he lacks the spirit to take over. Lin told them that the two of them are not here to look him off, however to gloat. They spoke back that he is wrong and they're right here to have a Lydia D time his firing. Dune requested what he plans to do now, and it's no longer smooth in the large city, and advised he move lower back to his village. Huang said what other village? Lin is an orphan and has no domestic, he can't cross anywhere. Dong supplied him a drink, but Lin said that he's now a driver and he would possibly have orders, so he isn't always consuming. Today the administrator got here running to them and asked who owned the Pagani's owned a vehicle this second. Jim, Dong and others looked out the window and absolutely noticed this sports car. The receptionist said that this car turned into blocking the other cars go out and he desired to ask the owner to transport it. Lin stated he might now pass it. Huang explained to him that the receptionist stated Pagani no longer his old automobile. Lin pulled out the automobile keys and stated that Pagani is his vehicle. Huang could not consider it for the reason that he notion all along that Lin changed into an orphan. He awkwardly requested him wherein he were given the cash to buy a sports car. He responded orphan have lots of money. He were given board on this restaurant and supplied to riding home. She couldn't refuse him and agreed to go together with him. Ing become very glad because it was the first time she had sat in this sort of car. She stated she had worked with him for See You Later and did not even recognize he was so wealthy. He advised her that it was inherited and he commonly does not boast approximately his wealth, and he asked him if it become genuine that he worked as a driver. Lin said he hadn't lied to her and requested her to make a reservation. She agreed and couldn't refuse him. He received and observed that his total passenger rating turned into 84, which failed to meet the process necessities. Lin was amazed because Ing become so beautiful, and why could not he receive a further point? He couldn't take his eyes off her splendor and asked him why he turned into searching at her like that. Lin requested if she knew any way to decorate a girl's allure. She stated that enhancing allure way making yourself appealing and there may be not anything difficult about it. Abruptly she took out black stockings from her handbag and positioned them on her legs. Then she adjusted her dress and said it is carried out like this. He obtained notification that his overall rating is 85 points and meets the mission requirements. Way to this 15 career turned into finished. He received Villa Just Houch as a praise. Lin stopped in the front of her residence and she advised he come over to her house for coffee in view that her husband is currently on an enterprise journey. Lin said that alas he had activities and provide to meet subsequent time. The subsequent morning Lin went to Simply Houch Income Branch. At the entrance he turned into met with the aid of his former colleague John. She became surprised to invite what he changed into doing right here. He stated he came to the manager for the name deeds. John did not accept as true with him and began to kick him out due to the fact the property right here is well worth over 800 million. However at that moment manager Wei got here up and informed him to stop immediately. Supervisor who he took his hand and offered to expose him the residence, but John informed her that she would waste her time due to the fact Lin is a former colleague and he can't manage to pay for the villa. We told her to shut up and get out of here so she would never see her again. John attempted to speak her down but we exclaimed that Lin had already sold 9 villas from them. John couldn't agree with it and fell to the floor in surprise. We apologized to him for John's behavior. She said that John had been beneath quite a few pressure. Lin instructed her that his residence registration must already be entire. He requested and they may provide him the name deeds. We said it changed into already achieved and gave him all the title deeds and keys to the 9 villas. After a while Lin were given in his automobile and texted him that Liz and Lee were fired. Lin chuckled due to the fact he had just left and that they were fired so quickly. He texted Rosie G and asked if she had fired them. She responded that she wanted to recognize the purpose he changed into fired and concept it'd make him sense better. Lin asked what her plans had been for the income supervisor role. Rosie G said she desired to present him the location but Lin instructed her not to do that in view that he changed into already incomes well and provided to provide the location to him. Rosie G requested him to take her to the organization. Wade instructed him if he may want to complete the undertaking he ought to get 5 stars reward 200,000 points and the of entirety percentage of the profession is 25%. Lin requested Shelby to give him 5 stars. Rosie G stated she become inclined to give him 5 stars however for that he might cancel her punishment with squats. All of a sudden he leaned into her face. She exclaimed, "What is he doing?" Lin said in that case he did not want 5 stars and she or he must do 9 squats and not 1 much less. She got embarrassed and got out and began to smooth herself. At that moment he noticed this and asked her what's she doing here. Lin replied for Rosie G and said that he by chance noticed main Rosie G name a cab and wondered why. Lin become panicking and making excuses for Rosie G. She thought it became no wonder that the 2 employees have been fired and refused to talk to her and thought Lin and director Rosie G had something in not unusual and concept she changed into doomed. At this factor Rosie G instructed her to go lower back to the workplace and get to paintings. Once they left Lin became notified that he got 5 stars. His subsequent order became Jenny. Residents decided not to refuse the order. Suddenly a purchaser referred to as him and asked him how antique he changed into. Lin surprisingly said he became 24. She asked him to pretend he become her boyfriend and for that she would give him 5 stars. 5 minutes later he arrived on the appointed address. He become opened the door by means of the popular blogger Xian. Seeing him she stated he became very handsome and even handsomer than their intern. At that moment her parents came as much as him and asked if he became their daughter's boyfriend. They informed him he didn't look too awful and requested what does he do. Lin informed them his call and stated he works as a motive force. Hearing this they were extremely sad that their daughter became courting a driving force but Xian said that the driver's process may be very money-making and he was the one who sold all her jewelry and now he's saving money to begin his own business. The daddy indignantly responded that 9 out of 10 marketers move bankrupt. He asked her what turned into she thinking anyway. Xian didn't need to maintain this communication and asked them were not they going to go to assembly with their pals. In the end she called her boyfriend to drive them there and after that she might go together with him to the mall. Lin awkwardly responded that he had a seater vehicle and they might have to name for another vehicle. The parents were bowled over the idea. Lin turned into driving a moped. They went out of doors and the father indignantly informed his daughter why the hell did she even start relationship a guy who rides a moped. However once they walked as much as his vehicle and Lin pulled out the keys. The daddy without delay modified his thoughts due to the fact he knew that those motors value plenty. Lin got inside the automobile and the mother and father without delay commenced telling their daughter to get in his motors right away and they might call another cab. He asked to which mall he needed to go to. She instructed him to go to Instances Square. Xian asked him if she could pass stay because she is a famous blogger. Lin fortunately said she ought to do some things she wanted however only if she gave him 5 stars. She agreed and went stay. All her viewers had been surprised once they noticed her in a Pagani zoned automobile. A number of the haters commenced writing insults to her but she asked them to relax because she ordered the motive force through the app. However Xian idea if Lin asked for a frame flaming she would now not mind. 10 minutes later he delivered her to her vacation spot in exile and gave him 5 stars. Wade congratulated him for finishing the assignment and getting 200,000 points and finishing his career at 35%. As a praise he acquired the Rosie, a global circuit driving abilities. Lin changed into amazed as it is the best track apart from the copper circuit. All of a sudden he stopped Xian and requested if she knew approximately phones as he wanted to trade his cell phone. Xian stated she did and would be glad to assist him. They went to Yali's mobile smartphone. Keep taking walks round the shop. He appreciated the brand new cell phone as it had lots of memory. Xian said exceptionally that he'd better purchase it online as it could be a Lydia D deal cheaper, but Lin stated he wanted to buy it here, and in spite of everything they did not come right here for not anything. After buying the phone, the salesperson cautioned he select a case due to the fact his cell phone costs more than 10,000 yuan and it's going to need to be included. Lin said that he does not surely like instances due to the fact that manner he feels uncomfortable, and if something happens to his telephone he will just purchase a brand new one, and at this point he determined to shop for 5 portions of each shade. The salesman changed into greatly surprised because there are most effective 20 pieces of those phones. However, Lin didn't care and said he could buy every other computer, was perplexed and failed to recognize wherein he were given so much cash. Presently there have been already over 5 million viewers on her broadcast. After shopping for the telephones and laptops, she requested him if he wanted to shop for something else. He saw a Vacheron done watch and stated it changed into time to buy a watch. One of the saleswomen diagnosed the blogger Zian. She told her that she could approach her and he or she could see her, but the other saleswoman stated there was no point and it was only a waste of time. Xian become broadcasting live and it was all a show due to the fact Vacheron done is handiest for virtually rich folks that can certainly have enough money. A watch Xian expenses for his or her watches and became taken aback because the expenses began from 200,000 yuan. Lin appreciated the watch and requested to expose him the watch, however he was advised that regrettably they can simplest choose it up after paying. Xian failed to understand this due to the fact how are you going to purchase an eye without even looking at it. Unexpectedly a person came into the shop with his girlfriend. The body of workers greeted him respectfully and asked what they might do for him. His girlfriend saw a gold watch and requested to buy it for her birthday. The man agreed and acquired it. She turned into informed she had first-rate taste and it turned into a brand new version. Abruptly Lin exclaimed furiously, what does all this imply? In any case they may be the identical customers and they ought to treat all and sundry similarly. He changed into instructed that they provide offerings in line with consumer status. He realized that whoever has extra cash and earlier than them they bow greater. Xian attempted to stop him, announcing that those luxurious shops all deal with customers this manner. The sales girl told them to tell them thanks for letting them into the store because Ten Hill could have kicked them out long ago. Lin and Xian have been extremely sad about this and they went into the Ten Hill watch save. A saleswoman met them at the doorway and asked them how she could assist them. Lin stated he failed to realize a whole lot and requested what she should recommend. Xian stated she may want to ask her viewers. The visitors cautioned him to buy a 175 version. However, upon hearing this the saleswoman turned into bold. Overthrew this choice. The visitors wrote to stop pretending and he honestly would not have the cash. Xian stated she may want to block them out. However, Lin stated not to try this and let them look. Lin stated to reveal him the 175 model. At this point all of the salesmen stood in a stupor and asked him does he really want to shop for them. He took out his card and stated that he might be glad to buy it due to the fact many human beings cautioned him to buy this precise model. The salesperson stated that this watch is out of inventory and ought to be introduced from Europe and they will be geared up to deliver it to his house. Xing requested them why one of these prestigious and large keep does now not have these watches in inventory. She turned into advised that there had been most effective 6 copies of this watch in the international, however only 1 were shipped to Rosia and it became out of inventory in Rosia. The information that someone had bought an eye well worth extra than 10 million yuan reached the clerks at the Vashon Dun Keep and that they ran to see the client. However, when she saw Lin she could not trust it. She begged his forgiveness and invited him into their store. Lin told her that his reputation wasn't enough for him to go into their save. She begged him no longer to leave due to the fact he had just lost a large fee. Lin and Xian walked out of the mall and he gave her a brand new smartphone for shopping with him. She turned into embarrassed and said he had an awesome time with him. She did not need to miss out on a man like that because he was very polite to her and also very rich. After the mall Lin went to Rosia Worldwide Raceway. At the reception he changed into advised that they have VIP receptions these days so they are closed today. Lin instructed them that he came right here no way clients and he wished to speak urgently with their manager. The female requested to anticipate him. However, at that moment Han got here and indignantly exclaimed what the hell are the unauthorized humans right here, because the day prior to this he told them to clean the region of unauthorized human beings. She informed him that Lin got here to look the manager and he had nothing to worry about. The opposite female asked Lin to head fast to the second ground in order not to make Mr. Han irritated. Lin requested who he was and why he handled each person so badly. She requested him does he not know Mr. Han? This is the famous Han and not many human beings in Zonghai could dare cross him. Lin went as much as the second floor and become met by Supervisor Hideout. He become not expecting this meeting and puzzled why he did no longer call due to the fact this manner he might set up a assembly with the team. Advised Zhao why she is status still and advised her to bring water to Director